Now, a senior cabinet minister has criticised the amount of time the government has spent on plans to legalise same-sex marriage in England and Wales. Speaking on Question Time last night, the Defence Secretary Philip Hammond said there was a real sense of anger about the move.
This change now does redefine marriage. It means for millions and millions of people who are married, the meaning of marriage is changed. And there is a real sense of anger among many people who are married that the government thinks that it has the ability, any government thinks that it has the ability to change the definition of an institution like marriage. And that is why the people who are opposed to this feel so very, very strongly about it.
And you are... And you are one of them. You feel strongly in exactly that way.
I don't feel strongly about this because I come at it from a point of view of religious conviction. Many of the people who object have very strong religious convictions. I have just never felt that this is what we should be focusing on. We have civil partnership, which seems to me to deal with the very real problem that same-sex couples faced. And it seems to me that there was no huge demand for this, and we didn't need to spend a lot of parliamentary time and upset vast numbers of people in order to do this.
Well, that was Philip Hammond last night. Let's speak to our political correspondent, Carol Walker, who's at Westminster. Interesting stuff, this, Carol. I mean, last week he was talking about how he would vote in any EU referendum. Now this. What do you make of it all?
Well, it's not the first time Philip Hammond has expressed his objections to gay marriage. He first did so more than a year ago. And of course, MPs and ministers do have a free vote on this. The Prime Minister himself has said that he recognises that there are very strong views on all sides of the argument. But there's no doubt that this whole issue of gay marriage has become a very difficult one indeed for the Prime Minister. Although the measure passed the Commons with a large majority, fewer than half of the Conservative MPs actually backed it. And amongst those that voted against were not just Philip Hammond, but a couple of other cabinet ministers and another number of other senior figures within the party. Now, the bill comes back to the Commons next week, and it looks as though there's a whole new row brewing now about the suggestion that there should be a consultation 5 years down the track about whether to extend the idea of civil partnerships to heterosexual couples as well as to gay couples. Now, there's been something of a backlash against this. Some MPs say, well, if it's a good idea to allow gay marriage for everyone for the sake of equality, then civil partnerships should be available to everyone for the sake of equality, that there's no need to wait until some consultation 5 years down the line for this. Others are saying, let's get on, let's get the gay marriage issue sorted. And if we try and bog it down by a new discussion about what should happen to civil partnerships, there's a danger in the whole issue running into the sand. It has to be said, another former minister, Tim Loughton, today talked about the Prime Minister's lunatic strategy of introducing the gay marriage bill in the first place, and said that there was a real danger of introducing a whole new inequality unless this issue of civil partnerships was addressed.
In terms of the wider politics, though, Carol, because Philip Hammond was already being mentioned in the papers as one of those potential future leaders if there was ever a leadership question. There was already questions being asked about positioning. These comments, based very specifically on what he was saying about what the Conservative Party should be concentrating on, that will appear, just like those comments on Europe, to the right of the party.
Yes, absolutely, and they will very much appeal to the right of the party. I mean, it is, I think, a little early to look at this as the start of some future leadership bid. After all, Philip Hammond has held these views for some time, has articulated them before, and he was asked his views as a guest on Question Time, so it would be strange if he hadn't replied. But he did reply in very strong terms, in those sort of language that would appeal to many Conservative MPs and many party members and supporters, particularly on the traditional wing of the party. And I think it does raise this further issue of whether David Cameron is sufficiently in tune with his party. That has been one of the accusations in the whole row about Europe. He's had to shift somewhat on that. We know there's going to be further moves on that now with an ordinary MP bringing forward a referendum bill. It looks as though he could face a further struggle over this whole issue of gay marriage. And an awful lot of Conservative MPs and supporters are saying, look, the issues we should be going out and having up there in lights are things about the economy, on crime and law and order and jobs and growth, rather than these other issues which are of less interest to the greater electorate.
All right, Carol, thanks very much. Thank you.